Greetings everyone, this is Dr. McCarthy and I am making this quick video to help you with some common mistakes I'm seeing lots of people do in the discussion forum while they're trying to cite correctly. I know that this is a frustrating issue for many people. Trust me, I've heard it a lot. And yes, this is not an English class, nor am I trying to be the English instructor, but we are learning communication, and we are learning how to communicate best within different modes of being. And in this case, this is going to be, of course, academia. And when you're in academia, you need to know how to do things correctly, like, for example, correct citation style, presenting titles correctly, presenting writing that looks professional, clean, and well-groomed. Okay, so this is part of the stuff I want to teach you and help you with. So I'm looking at these common mistakes that a lot of you guys are making, and I thought I'd make this short video to help you fix them. Okay, so let's start with punctuation and quote marks. This is a little frustrating because our campus is very multicultural. We have people from all over the world, and many of you have gone through the ESL program here at South Seattle Community College, and you're also used to very different rules on these things in your own countries. So I know that this is kind of complicated, and when it comes to quote marks and punctuation, the United States is decidedly different than many other countries. So I'm going to give you some interesting rules to follow that will make it a little bit easier while you're writing papers here in the United States. Sometimes we like to use quotation marks for emphasis, right? So we're trying to give extra emphasis on a word or a concept, but we're not really giving a quote, right? So for an example, John was walking, not running to the store. This sentence, because I've added the quotation marks, adds a little irony about what John is actually doing, and it kind of gives a different message if we didn't have the quotation marks there. Now, how I have this quotation mark under walking, I have first the opening quotation mark, the word walking, then the comma, then the ending quotation mark. This is correct right here. I don't see this a lot in class. I see the opposite, and that's because most places around the world you would do the opposite. But the rule here in the United States is this. Commas and periods belong inside the ending quote mark, not outside it, unless you are about ready to cite a quote. But hold on to that part. We'll get to that in a little bit, okay? Generally, though, commas and periods belong inside the ending quote mark, not outside of it. This rule does not apply to colons, semicolons, exclamation marks, or question marks. They all belong outside of the ending quote mark, and these are examples. John was walking, ending quote mark, and then we have the exclamation mark. John was walking, ending quote mark, and the question mark. John was walking, colon, Barbara was running, or John was walking, semicolon, Barbara was not walking. So these are the different rules, but of course periods and commas are the most common form of punctuation we use. So keep that in mind. As a general rule, when you're trying to add emphasis, I suggest that you use italics rather than quote marks. When you use quote marks, and if you use them a lot for emphasis, it can be mistaken for a quote, right? So if you use italics, it's a little bit safer, okay? Sometimes, if I really want to add a different type of emphasis, like sarcasm, I will use quote marks under those circumstances. So John whispered, air quote marks, his concern, so the entire room could hear he was mad at me. Okay, so whispered is kind of the air quote marks that you might use in face-to-face conversation to suggest irony or sarcasm. But in general, I would say stick with italics. All right, so now we're going to look at punctuation, final quote marks in citations. This is when the rule changes. And of course, this is just to give you a headache, right? But when we are citing a quote, we remove the ending punctuation from the quote itself, and we place it at the end of the citation. And let me show you what I am talking about here. So here is a quotation. We have, Barbara was not impressed with the theory on life after death, period, end quote. That's a citation. And we're going to pretend that this quote is from a book called Life After Death and Beyond by Judith Williams, and the quote appears on page 56, and it was published in 1998. Now first I'm going to go over the MLA form, that's the Modern Language Association in-text citation form, and then we're going to look at APA as well, because I know a lot of you guys are also using APA or need to know the APA form. So I'm going to do both here. So our quote is, Barbara was not impressed with the theory on life after death. This is the correct MLA form. We have the quote here, right? Open quotation mark, Barbara was not impressed with the theory on life after death. You notice I took out the period. I do have the ending quotation mark. I have a space. Then I have the citation, which is the last name, a comma, the page number, and then I put this ending punctuation after the citation. Okay? So I removed the period after death and I moved it to the end of the citation here. All right? So that is correct. If you are using APA form, that means you need to include a date. So we have Barbara was not impressed with the theory on life after death. You notice the period is gone here. I have the ending quotation mark, a space, the last name of the author, a comma, the date that the book was published, a comma, the letter P, and this one is capitalized because it's a single P, and the page 56. Now, let's say this quote appeared on page 56 and 57. I would add let's see if you can see this better. There we go. I would add 1998, and then this P would become a big P and a small p. All right, and let me make this a little bit smaller so you can better see what I am doing here. So what I did is I added a capital P, a small p, a period, a space, and then I have the page numbers that they're through. All right, so that's how you would handle it if there was more than one page number here. Okay, so let's look at some incorrect forms real quick. All right, so here is our quote. Barbara was not impressed with the theory on life after death. This would be incorrect. What I have here is I left the period on after death. Okay, that would be incorrect. I have a correct citation here, and then I go on with my next sentence. You notice I put a period at the end of my citation. So I have death, period, end quote. Then I have the citation, and I put another period, and then I began with the next sentence. This would be incorrect. Why is this incorrect? Well, because we have a period after death, it looks like the citation, Williams, page 56, is a sentence all on its own. And this is especially true because we have a period after the citation. So we're suggesting that this is a standalone statement, not something that belongs to the quote before it. So that's a problem. The second incorrect example here, you'll notice that the period is after the word death. Then I have the citation. The citation is not followed by another period, but the next sentence happens. The reason this is wrong is because it looks like this citation here, Williams 56, belongs to the next sentence, but not the sentence we actually need to cite, because the ending punctuation is at the end of the word death and not at the end of the citation itself. Okay, does that make sense? And then this is also incorrect down here. Barbara was not impressed with the theory of life after death. We have again a period here, the citation, and another period here. These are all incorrect MLA forms because of where the ending punctuation is in relation to the next sentence coming up. Okay, so let's go on. This is incorrect style for APA. Okay, again we have the punctuation after death that needs to be removed. For the citation is a problem because you notice we don't have a comma after the word Williams, we don't have a comma after the date, and we don't have the letter P before the page number, right? And then we also have ending punctuation here making the citation its own sentence. So these are all mistakes. Here, on this next example of mistake, we have the period after death. That's wrong. There is no space between the last quotation mark and the citation. That's wrong. You notice I have an extra space here before I put the comma after Williams. That would be incorrect. All right. And it looks like that the citation is part of the second sentence, not the first sentence, which is also incorrect. And the third example, we have problems again. Death, there's a period after that. That would be incorrect. I don't have commas between the dates and the names, and I put the date first rather than the author's name first. For APA, it always goes author, date, page number. Okay? And of course, there isn't a P before the page number here. So that's a mistake too. So these are all examples of how to do correct in-text citations dealing with the ending punctuation in relation to your citation for both APA and MLA form, okay? APA form is usually used for the sciences and the social sciences, and MLA form is usually used for the humanities. Now I'm going to go over one other topic that I'm seeing a lot of mistakes, and that's titles. And how do you correctly present a title? Well, there's an easy way to remember this, and I think it helps students a lot when I present it this way. The following titles should always be placed in italics. Don't underline. The reason we don't underline, we used to underline, but we don't do it anymore. And that's because there's a lot of writing online, and underlining text usually means that it is a link to something on the internet. And we don't want to have a link here. What we want to do is just say that this is a title. We're telling our reader, hey, look at me, I'm a certain kind of title. Okay, so we now italicize it, we don't underline it. These are what we italicize: book titles, album titles, TV show titles, movies, magazine titles, and anthology. These are all big ticket items, if you will, that you need to always put in italics, and you need to capitalize the first letter of each main word. So for example, let me give you an example here. Let's say that's the name of our book. John was at the store. What I did is I italicized all the main words. John at store. Was and the can be left unitaliced. Okay? Now, we don't italicize all titles. There's some titles that we actually put in quote marks, but we still need to capitalize the first letter of each main word. Now, the best way to remember this is the big ticket items all stay in italics. The small ticket items, all the stuff that goes inside the big ticket items, those are the things you use quote marks for. So if you italicize a book title, right, your chapter titles would be put into quotes. If you italicize an album title, then the individual songs or tracks, those are all going to be put into quotes. If you italicize the name of a TV show, all the episodes that fall under that TV show, those go in quotes. If you italicize the name of a movie, all the scenes in that movie go in quotes. You italicize a magazine, all the articles found inside that magazine goes in quotes. And if you italicize an anthology, all the articles found inside that anthology go in quotes. So this should help you keep it separate. The big ticket items always are in italics. The smaller things that fall under that big ticket item, those things always go in quotes. And that is all for this little quick presentation. I hope that me talking you through these things kind of helps you be able to make better adjustments in your citation form and presentation of things like titles. If you have any follow-up questions, please let me know and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Thank you guys, and you all have a terrific week. Mahalo and aloha.